Okay, the last part of this that I want us to look at is how do we actually write the equations for direct variation, and excuse me, how do we use them to solve for given values? Excuse me. Okay, so the first thing that's really important is I do want you to know that there are other ways to solve direct variation problems. However, if we are writing the equation, it's really important that, number one, we're using the correct format, and we have to remember that k is always y over x. That is super, super important if we are writing the equation. Okay, if we're just going to write a proportion to solve this, then it's not as big of a deal, but the equation part is super important. So, in number one, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write an equation using the given information, and then we're going to solve for the missing value that they're asking. Okay, so two ways to do this. If you can remember that k is always y over x, then it's simple as saying k is 2 over 5, which then means the equation would be y equals 2/5 x. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now maybe you can't remember that k is y over x. So hopefully then you can at least remember the format of the equation. And so if you take the equation and plug in your numbers and you solve for k, you're still going to get the same results and then be able to write your equation. Okay, this would be the direct variation equation for these given numbers. Now it says find y when x is 12. So it's now as simple as taking our equation, plugging in 12 for x, and calculating it. This would be 24 over 5, which is technically that's a perfectly acceptable answer. Or if you change it to a mixed number, let's see, that would be 4 and 4/5. That's okay too, or 4.8. Any of those answers are acceptable. So, okay, let's look at number 2. So number 2, exact same thing. If I need to find k in order to write the equation, so I'm going to say y over x, 20 over 8. I do want to make sure that I reduce that. So that would be 5 halves, right? And so my equation is y equals 5 over 2x. Sure, if you want to change that to a decimal, you can. Most of the time, though, we're going to see them left as a fraction. But again, we need to be comfortable working in the different forms of the number. Then it says, what is the value of x when y equals -2? So this is different. Now we're going to plug -2 in for y and solve for x. So we've got to pay attention. What variable is it asking us to solve for? Where do we plug in the numbers? Also be really careful. They don't always put y first. Make sure we know what number is what. To solve this equation, remember all we have to do is multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? And so that means that x would be -4/5. And so there is the value of x.